Good evening, everybody. I would like to say thank you to everyone who is joining on both YouTube as well as Twitch. If you are joining on the YouTube, if you haven't already, feel free to hit the like button. Also, feel free to hit the subscribe button. If you are watching on Twitch, don't forget to hit the follow button. If you feel so inclined, subscribe. Our topic for tonight is generational traumas. I want to take this time to say thank you to the channel members who are Journey with Kiki, Kimberly Davis, Happy 1178, Lovely Samira, and for all of your love and support. I hope that you enjoy your channel member benefits. Hello, Miss Flame. Hi, Lord Fancy Pants. Thank you guys for joining. I'll be right back. I'm just going to give you guys a disclaimer and then we'll start the podcast.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome. If this is your first time here, welcome back. If you are a returning supporter, I'm here to give you the disclaimers for this here live. Listen, I do not tolerate disrespect. That's in any way, shape, form, or fashion, whether it's towards me, towards anyone that appears on the screen, towards anyone that appears in the chat. If you have not decided to be a better person, most people will tell you to leave, but I'm going to tell you to stick around because maybe something that is said today will encourage you to do so. Now, I am not a mental health professional. I am just one woman willing to share my personal experiences to let you know two things. One, you are not alone, regardless of how much you feel like you are alone, how many times you have felt that, you are not alone. And number two, you can overcome anything that life throws at you. There will be curse words, there will possibly be tears, but knowing me, it probably will be. And my opinions are my opinions. Your opinions are your opinions. We are here to have a nurturing conversations in regards to our opinions so that we will have a better understanding of each other. That's all I got for right now. I hope that you enjoy this nurturing conversation. Let's get to it. Wait. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button that helps me say suggested on YouTube. Make sure that you type in the chat, also leave a comment, and share it with your friends. That's all I got. Let's get into this conversation. I love you. Peace.
Hello, beautiful people. I got to get used to looking up at the camera. I'm going to figure this all out. Thank you guys for being here for the Nurturing Conversations podcast. I am your host, Ishell. Tonight's conversation is generational trauma. I do want to say that I am not a mental health professional. I know I just said this in a disclaimer. However, I'm going to say it again. I'm not a mental health professional. I just love, I talking helps me, and I'm not saying that it should help you, but I'm saying that it could help you. And tonight I want to talk about generational trauma. We are officially in the 6th month of 2023. I have had a lot of wonderful things happen for me. I've had a lot of challenging things happen for me. And I had an experience yesterday. This is a lot of these topics that I talk about comes from my personal experience. And I'm here to be as transparent and vulnerable as I can to let you know, again, one, that you are not alone, and two, that you can overcome anything that life throws at you. I had an experience yesterday. I went to see a speaker, and the speaker was speaking, and she was talking about how the family that she grew up in had a lot of trauma in it. And she was talking about how her mom had experienced trauma and it was unresolved or the trauma wasn't uh, addressed. So her mom's like the trauma was passed down to her and her siblings. Then I began to think about a story that, oh, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. Um, I began to think about the story that my uncle had told me. My family migrated from Mississippi to Wisconsin, right? And so I'm the inquisitive type, so I always wanted to know, like, what was it like? And in speaking with my grandmother and my great aunts, it was Mississippi was definitely a place that they were ready to leave. And understanding why they migrated to Wisconsin and how their life was in Mississippi, um, it was definitely challenging. And I say challenging because it challenged me and the things that I take for granted or I took for granted. Um, it challenged my definition of love. It challenged my definition of appreciation. It challenged everything. So, my uncle told me, he's like, when they were growing up, their parents were like on plantations and stuff, and so they didn't really have like emotional connection to their children. And at first I laughed it off because we hear stories about slavery and all of those things, and I laughed not at the slavery. I laughed like, oh, okay, just oh, okay. And then as he began to go deeper into like the transition or the generational like movements, I totally like it totally was clear to me. Um, I the relationship with my mother and her mother was different. The relationship that I have with my mother is completely different. Um, I don't. I have a mother-daughter relationship with my mother now. However, I'm gonna say before I turned 35, it was more so she was like my friend. Like she's my mother, but it was more so like she was my friend. We didn't have that bonding. And then I began to understand why. Sometimes there are things that happen in our life and it doesn't allow us the opportunity to be um, the best human beings we could be. Like we don't have the opportunity. I'll tell you guys a story. I'm not my uncle, my father, when I was 35, actually, I was like 33. I started going to therapy because I was like, I'm tired of carrying around all of the baggage of my life. I'm tired of the trauma. I'm tired of crying. I'm tired of everything. I'm tired of mistrusting. I'm tired of being rejected. I'm tired of everything. So I started going to therapy. And in therapy, I began to understand that my parents are human too. I know you're probably like, yeah, you didn't know your parents are human. Yes, I understood that they are human too. I had all of these hope, dreams, and aspirations for my parents because, you're looking at TV or you're looking at your friends and you're seeing how their families is. And that wasn't my family. It was just me, my mom, and my grandma and my uncles. Like that was who my family was. And so when I got 35, my therapist was like, you should go and talk to your parents, and not from the angry child, but like talk to them and understand where they were when you were born. I didn't go do it right away because I feel like I had to let go, release some anger and bitterness um, because of how I thought they should have raised me. And so when I was 35, I went and I talked to my mom first, and I understood where she was when I was born. And then when I talked to my dad, it changed a lot for me. I gave this disclaimer in that I would cry, but anyways, when I talked to my dad, it changed a lot for me. My father wasn't there for the majority of my life, but I just let him know how I felt, how it felt to not to have a father, but not have a father, right? And so my father actually listened to what I said, or heard me and acknowledged me, and then he told me where he was, and he began to talk to me about grief and not understanding how to process grief. He said 2 years before I was born, I had a sister, and she passed away due to carbon monoxide poisoning. And no one told him about grief or how to handle it. And he said no one really even talked to him. Like he just was there existing. And so he said he just did what he knew to do, and that was the streets. And that's what took him away from me. And I thought that was the most realist answer. And maybe because I was able to see like his emotions while he was saying it, and it was just like, here I was holding all of this against this guy, and he was going through his own struggles, and I wasn't even thinking like he's a human with struggles too. I was just like, you're my parent, you're supposed to put all that to the side and make sure that I'm good. But that helped me to understand generational trauma. Like um, he didn't have anyone to talk to him about grief. Like he didn't have anyone to say, "Hey, we know that you just lost your first child, and so here's how you handle it." And so while he was saying that, he was like, "I I felt bad because I knew that I had you and your brother, but he said I didn't want to get attached again, and then, something happened." I totally understood that. It wasn't like he was like, "Oh, I didn't want to," but I totally understood what he was saying. Like you had just suffered a major loss. Now, if he would have told me this when I was in my 20s, I probably would have been like, "I don't give a," but I'm 30. I was in my 30s and I'm more mature now. Kind of. I was striving to be more mature. And so I began to understand, and then it just opened my eyes to looking at different at people and their upbringing, or just how they navigate through life. And I began to have more compassion for people. And having more compassion for people, you're more understanding, you're more eager to, you're not so quick to like just shut people out. I began to think about my mom and my grandma, and just thinking about like, you think about marriage, um, you're thinking about being in a relationship. I do feel like, hi, I am right, you're wrong. I do feel like I am an empath. And I discovered what that was um, by going through therapy and just understanding. Like, I had this weird thing where I used to say, like, I'm the type of person where, regardless of what a person do to me, I would still make sure that they are okay. Like, I truly do love humans, right? Regardless of how evil some of them may be, I still want the best for everyone. That's just period. I especially want the best for African Americans, mainly because we have been through so much, and that's a lot of generational trauma. Um, we've been through so much, and you know what? I'm just thinking, I have a whole script that I was supposed to read, but I'll read through it sometime. But generational traumas, a lot of people, some people, I can't say a lot of people, but many people don't feel like they actually exist. Um, I shared with you guys before, maybe you haven't heard, but I was taken advantage of when I was younger. And there's there's a point where you tell people, and you have in your mind like, this is what's going to happen when you tell somebody what happens to you, right? You thinking like, yeah, they're gonna stand up for me, it's gonna be it's gonna be great. And then it's more of like shame, and it's more of like, um, you start to feel guilty, you have all of these different feelings. And I am so grateful for um, having being able to go to therapy, or having the mind to go to therapy. And I say that because I grew up in church, and what I'm about to say might sound like I don't believe in God. I don't, but I will say this. I grew up in church, and I was molested by the pastor of the church. And so my views on religion, and views on God, and views on all of it is slightly different from everyone else. So um, I began to realize and understand quickly that hurt people. And I hate that saying. I hate it so much. And I mainly hate it because people use it all the time as a way of saying, like, well, I was hurt too. So, I mean, somebody did it to me. So, but in reality, this is why we're talking about generational traumas, where um, when does it stop? The person that molested me was hurt by people that he thought he could trust. And so I began to have this thing. I'm like, I love people, but I began to have this thing where I just didn't trust anybody. I didn't even trust myself. I didn't trust anyone. And then when you think about your families and you think about how protective they are, some of them, some of them are protective. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. Um, I began to think about my uncles, and part of me was screaming like, tell them, because you know that they're going to do something. But then there's another part that says, I don't want them to go to jail. I don't want. So there's all these different feelings and emotions that I had as a young woman. When I say young, I mean like 12, 13, like before I even hit like teenage years. I had all of these feelings. So I was dealing with a lot. Um, and I began to think about my younger siblings, and I was like, I don't ever want anybody that I know or anybody that's around me to ever have to experience that. Like, I don't want them to have to deal with those traumas. I recognize at an early age that people, when they can't understand something, they either like shun it, they like, try to like sweep it under the rug, or they try to make a big deal out of it, right? Um, I feel like generational traumas happen, and this is my personal opinion. I'm just gonna say I feel like generational traumas happen because people become so complacent with families. Like we become like, that's my grandmother, or that's my uncle, or that's my sister, or that's my brother, and we like have this, I don't want to disrupt the family, or I don't want to be the person that caused the rift in the family. Um, I feel like um, many families have a lot of generational traumas, and some people just aren't willing to stand up and put an end to it. Um, I remember one time that I was talking in a group of people, and I was like, I was molested, and then other people were like, yeah, I was molested too. And the commonality of people being molested, it's like, it's not, I don't see it as a badge of honor, but it's when you say, hey, I've been molested, someone is like, oh, I was molested too, and it's like, who, but for me, it's like, no, I'm not saying that to be like, yes, look at me. I'm saying that to say, I wasn't protected when I was younger. I did have a grandmother who loved me. I had uncles who loved me. I had a mother who loved me. I had a father who loved me, but I was not protected at all. And in understanding other people's traumas, shall we say, when I spoke to my mother about what happened to me, I could see the look of, how could this happen? How could this happen? Why did it happen? I could see all of those things on her face. And then when she like began to talk after that, I kind of just like tuned it out, should I say? Because at that time I was angry. I was angry. I'll say I was angry the most because, I feel like parents, if you're a parent and you're watching this, I feel like it is your ultimate job to protect your child. And I know you're probably like, I can't protect them at all times. They go to school or they go to, but it is your ultimate job to hug them, to kiss them, to tell them how beautiful they are, to ask them how their day was, to hug them. to have a sense of intimacy with them. And I don't mean like in that weirdo way, I mean in the fact that you actually be emotional with them. When my mom told me, like, well, I was kind of there when my mom was growing up, but like when she told me, like, her experiences, it helped me see her life. It helped me to see how my life became what it is. Um, I think I should read. Um, I think when it comes to generational traumas, it's important for us to recognize some of the signs and symptoms because I feel like a lot of people, like, this is mental health month, right? And I wanted to talk about generational traumas. One, because it's mental health month. Two, because we are in the 6th month of 2023. Three, we have survived a global fucking pandemic for 3 years. And four, I think it's time for us to heal. Just heal. If you're like me and you grew up in the 80s and there was like crack and there was broken homes and there's a lot of that, there's a lot of things that we need to heal from. The speaker that was speaking yesterday, she was talking about, she said she got diagnosed as bipolar disorder. Again, I am not a mental health professional. I'm just telling you what was relayed to me. And she said, as she got older and she went to therapy, she realized that it was post-traumatic stress disorder. So when I was in therapy, and she's like, "You got post-traumatic stress disorder." Now, when you hear it, when I've heard it, like when I heard it, it was like people who went to war and came back, or people who grew up in like a war-torn like community or town. And I was just sitting here like, I got post-traumatic stress disorder. Like I wasn't in the war or nothing like that. But then when you actually think about the amount of trauma, the amount of things that you go through, like even living in a hood where you're hearing gunshots or you're seeing people that are highly inebriated or high on the corners or in the blocks or in your basement or the walkway to your apartment, like that's a lot of traumatic stuff. I started to think about growing up in church. I saw a lot of traumatic stuff. I told someone like I stopped going to funerals five, 7. It's been a long time since I actually been to a funeral. I feel like my younger years, I was going to a funeral all the time. I was going to funerals, going to see people in the hospitals. I don't go to hospitals. I do go to hospitals if there's something wrong with me, but if there's somebody in the hospital, I can't go. I just it's traumatic for me. And I realized that I am not um my peace is the most important thing to me. Once you sit down and you accept what your life is, you acknowledge where your life is, right? And then you accept it. This is just my opinion. This is how I figured my way through my generational traumas. Um, I acknowledged the things that I endured in my life. I accepted them. And I sat down and I said, I am better than all of those things. I am better than the molestation. I am better than the racism. I'm better than all of that. And so, what am I going to do to show that I am better? Not to prove to anyone, but to show that I am better. I began to live. I went to school. I got a degree. I released music. I started a business. I began to do everything that made me happy. I, um, 3 years ago, I I went to therapy when I was like in my 30s, but you know, like you be learning stuff, you go to school, you learn stuff, you don't really apply it at that time. So I was applying little tidbits of things like boundaries. I knew, okay, I'm gonna set this boundary. I'm not going to answer my phone after 10. You know, I was doing like the little small things. And then 3 years ago, when I was preparing to turn 40, I was like, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of myself. I'm sick of crying. I'm sick of I had this thing with like disappointment. I realized like um I renounce my strong black woman. If you're a black woman, you'll get what I'm saying in just a minute. I renounced it. Like I got tired of carrying the flag of strong black women because I cry, I hurt, I feel sad. Um, I remember when I was growing up, they was like, never let them see you cry, never let them see you sweat. And I'm like, no, I want you to see that I am hurt. I want you to see that I am disappointed. I want you to know these things. So maybe somewhere in the back of your head or your mind or while you're watching me, your heart will be pricked and you will know, like, hey, I hurt someone that actually means a lot to me. I feel like right now in our lives, like we are so emotionally detached from things. Like 3 years ago, we were all like it locked in a house. We couldn't go outside. We couldn't talk to our loved ones. We couldn't see babies be born. We couldn't be at the hospital when people were dying. Like we couldn't do that. And so that for that moment, we had empathy, we had compassion, we had all of those things, right? And I feel like so many things in our lives has caused us to be hardened. Like we still have a heart that beats, but it causes us to be hardened. I remember when I was younger, when we were younger, me and my brothers were younger. My mom had said she was going to take us to Chuck E. Cheese. Like we went to Chuck E. Cheese literally every Tuesday and Thursday when I was younger, like clockwork. And so my mom came in and like I knew she was tired and my other brother knew that she was tired, but my younger brother, he didn't care nothing about her being tired. She said she was going to take us to Chuck E. Cheese. And so she laid down on the couch and she went to sleep. Now we knew, we were trying to explain to him like, you know, she's tired. She worked all day. We'll go next time. It's Thursday. We'll go on Tuesday. Like we knew that. Like we wasn't tripping, but that scarred him. And literally I'm laughing because it's not funny, but it's funny. But literally, I want to say like he has a son, and his son will be 6 in July. And so he said it wasn't until his son asked to come to my house that he realized um, that our mother was she was tired. Like all these years, he's like he's about to be 40. But anyways, all those years he held on to that. Like he didn't trust anybody. Anytime somebody said that they were going to do something for him, because of that one incident, he didn't trust. If you don't believe me, I'll see if I can get him to come on the podcast so he could tell you the story. It's the funniest thing. We laugh about it because that we were there. Like that's something we experienced, and you probably was like, nah, it's not funny. But we laugh about it because he literally held on to that. Like if you say, hey, I'm on my way to pick you up, he automatically was like, oh, you're not coming. He didn't even give you the option to, like, he didn't even believe anything. And so my nephew called and was like, Titi, I want to come over your house. And I was like, okay, cool. Call your dad and tell him to bring you down. And so my brother said, hey, okay, I'm getting off of work. Won't listen to this. Hey, I'm getting off of work. We'll be down shortly, right? So a couple of hours went past, and I called my brother, and I was like, "What happened?" He was like, "Oh, I fell asleep. It's too late now for like driving." And I was like, you must have been tired, huh?" And he's like, "Yeah, I was tired." And I was like, "I wonder how your son feels. The fact that you told him you were going to bring him down here, and you didn't bring him." And he's like, "Oh my God. I did the same thing to my son." That he's like, "Oh, I'm not trying to be like that. I gotta be." And I was just like, it's so amazing where when things happen outside of us, like things happen to us, we're just looking at it like, yeah, but when it happens, like we do it to someone else, it just like it dawns on us. Like when I talked to my mom, it was like I didn't know a lot of the things. I just knew that she was my mom, and like she literally took care of everybody in the neighborhood, everybody at church. She took care of everybody. Like I say, my grandmother was the first superwoman to me. Um, I saw her take care of people with special needs, and not just people like she worked at a school, but not just people at the school, like anybody. She helped anybody, like real life anybody. And I saw, some not so good things happen to her. And then I saw my mom, and I saw her give everything she had to make sure that everybody was like good. And I was like, the buck stop here, because I ain't going with that. You going I done saw people do some real low down dirty things to my grandmother and my mother, and I was like, yeah, no, I ain't rocking with that. And then I started to understand um, life, and when you have a heart that cares for people, and regardless of how much I say, I don't give a fuck if I still find myself doing for people. Like right now, I'm going to tell you guys this. All right, I am a music administrator. If you are a musician, you definitely want to listen to this. If you are a parent of a musician, your cousin, baby daddy, uncle, sister, wife, anybody you know is doing music. Um, I You're probably like, how is this related to generational trauma? I'm gonna tell you. For as long as I've been alive, and I've been alive for 42 years, the music industry has been taking advantage of people of color, mainly black people. Go with me while I'm on this tangent right now. And so I was so inquisitive as to why is some of my favorite artists dying broke? Like, why is Anita Baker still fighting for the rights to her music when her contract, her music should have got back to her like 30 something years ago? And it was because we don't know the business of music. And then I began to think, like, who's going to tell us the business of music? Because if we are educated when it comes to music and how we get paid, that takes money away from the people who have been buying yachts and have summer homes, and that takes money out of their pockets. And so I come from a long line of teachers, tenure professors, Sunday school teachers, elementary school, high school, private institutional teachers. And like all of the other things in my life, I was like, I'm not going to be a teacher. I'm going to be a music artist. I'm going to be a songwriter. I'm going to write songs and people are going to sing it. Let me tell you, I thought Tina Turner was going to sing my songs. I thought Patti LaBelle. I was thinking, when I aimed high, I even wrote a country song because I was like, yeah, one day I'm going to meet Dolly Parton. And then I turned 39. Now, I'm saying this because maybe you have something on the inside of you that is burning, like that there's burning that you should do. Maybe you should write a book, start a YouTube. Maybe you should start teaching classes. Maybe you should go back to school. Maybe you should get out of the relationship you're in. Whatever it is that's burning on the inside of you. I knew that teaching was on the inside of me, but every part of me was like, I'm not doing it. It's a no for me. Nope, 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 nope. No, because in my mind I envision one of the kids or saying something. I don't know. I don't tolerate disrespect. If you saw my disclaimer, I don't tolerate disrespect at all, especially if it's not. I don't think any type of disrespect is warranted, but you know what I'm saying. If no one has done anything to you and you've been disrespectful, yeah, it's a no for me. And then I was getting ready to turn 40, and I said, I'm gonna stop running. We be knowing. We be knowing what we supposed to do. And sometimes we just be skating by and we be happy. We be complacent with skating by. And I said, I'm going to stop running. And if it is meant, knowing at the beginning of my life I was going to be a teacher. But if it is meant for me to be a teacher, show me the way and I will do it. And I'll say right now, like, that has been the greatest, I made a lot of great decisions in my life, but that has been one of the greatest decisions ever. So I became a music administrator. I have a bachelor's degree in music administration, and I became a music administrator. And as I began to follow the money trail, I understand that it is important for music artists, whether you are seasoned or whether you are an independent artist or you are a parent of an artist, it is important for you to understand the foundation of the music industry. We are in the digital age now, so there's things like TikTok and YouTube and Twitch, where people are making millions of dollars. millions of dollars. And it is easy for um, people who have never had a large sum of money to see money and just be like, okay, I'm gonna grab it. And I say that not that all black people haven't had money, but I'm saying if you haven't been fortunate to be from a family that is wealthy, it's easy for someone to come from another state, especially Atlanta or LA or New York, and say, "Hey, I want to sign you to a record deal," and they give you a large amount of money, and you like, "Yeah, I'm gonna take it." Um, it's easy to do that rather than um, understand that you worked all of your life. You worked all of your life to build a name for yourself, to establish a brand, to record the music, to experience the experiences that you rap or sing or, whatever it is, make beats about, whatever it is. You worked all your life. So to give it away for, I consider it pennies and nickels. Um, so I decided that I'm going to focus on providing music creatives with the education, not just music creatives, parents, because you need to know too. And I say that because everyone under the sound of my voice heard Prince when he said how he felt about the music industry, right? Um, and then he passed away. God bless the dead. And then the record labels, um, knowing how Prince was in regards to his music, and his family, became the overseer or whatever of his estate. They approached his family about, getting music from his vault or having, oh, we just want to have a commemorative album of Prince. We want to give people something. And this is why I share with parents and family members is because you should know um, you're just a check to them. You're just money. I know that sounds really harsh, but you are. That's just like your job. That's really just like your job. Like you work so hard for your job, and then say you have an emergency and you call off. It's easy for them to find somebody else to fill your spot. Um, that's why I used to tell my brothers all the time, like, you're giving everything you got to this job, but they will quickly replace you. Like we say that, like they will quickly replace you. I was looking at the thing. Um, this is probably really not. Some people might not find this as important, but I find it important. Ron DeSantos, I think that his name is in Florida, signed a law about illegal immigrants or people that worked, that was picking the fruit and doing the construction in Florida. And there was a bunch of TikToks about it. And it's like now you have to do your own work. And so I was watching it and it was just like, when you think about like the racial disparities in the United States. And I I laughed because 2 weeks ago, um, I had my final straw, I will say. My final straw when it comes to um, racial disparities. And I know as long as I'm going to be alive and I'm black and I'm a woman and all of these different things, I probably experience more of them as the time go on. But I had the final straw, and I was telling my family members, it's like, you know what, I'm going to stand and yell black from the top of the highest mountain, and I'm going to just do it. I have to. When I think about all of the different races, from concentration camps to the Asian community in concentration camps in California, to the Indians, the Native Americans that were displaced, to the African Americans. Like, I think about how there's so much of a divide, and that in and of itself is generational trauma. Um, a lot of the trauma that we've experienced is not necessarily just in our homes or in our communities. It is racial. It's like the government. It's all of those things. And I know if you're watching, you're probably like, I can't believe she's talking about this. But yeah, I'm over it. I'm over. Um, I remember when I was younger, right? Um, you could you could drive, you could go wherever you wanted. I I went to I grew up in the hood. I'm gonna tell you guys. Let me tell you a little about me. All right. I grew up in the hood. When I say hood, I mean like the projects, like the hood, where there was like dirt. There wasn't grass. There was like dirt, and I now as an adult I wear that as a badge of honor. Like I wouldn't take anything that happened in my life back. I grew up in a hood, but I went to predominantly white schools. Right. I didn't realize um, how much of a cultural shock it was to me. I didn't realize how traumatic it was for me until, again, therapy. I started to understand. Um, I started to understand. I went to high school, and in my high school, I was learning how to fly planes and rebuild cards and cabinetry and cook and sew and all of those different things that I realized that they didn't have, they don't have anymore. I remember we had to carry around babies that cried all the time. Like I remember like all of these different things, and I thought to myself like, because when you're in the hood and people are like, oh, you talk proper and all of these different things, like I wasn't thinking about any of those things, but as I was going through therapy, I realized how traumatic it was. And I'm saying traumatic, I'm saying trauma. So I'm hoping that I am actually triggering you because I want you to release all of those things. I want you to release, I'm not saying forget, but I want you to release those things that are keeping you from being successful. I want you to release those things that are keeping you from recognizing your own worth, your own value. If you are a parent, I want you to recognize the things that stunted you so that as your child is growing, you could be better for them. I spoke last Sunday about don't be sorry, be better. And I think, like in my life, I even think when I like deal with my nieces and nephews, like I'd be quick to tell, like my family is like, you should pop them or you should do, and I'm like, no, I'm a talker, so I feel like if I talk to them and tell them, they can understand because their ears work. That's my new thing. Like, are your ears working? But I feel like no one really talked when I was younger. Like they were like, "Oh, don't touch the stove," and I'm like, I'm the type of person who was like, why not touch the stove? Like when I was going up to church, it was like, "Oh, don't have sex before marriage," and it's like, what is sex? And why am I not supposed to have it before marriage? And then what happens if I have sex before marriage? Like all the you only added more questions to where I was at, right? And so then it was like, you don't question adults. It's like all of these different things. It's all of these like I get it. Like a lot of people didn't have the answers, so it was like, well, why do I not do that? Like, what will happen if I do that, right? And for me, I was an inquisitive child, so I asked questions about everything, and so a lot of times I would get in trouble because I was asking, and they were like, "You don't question me, you do what I say," and all of those things. It's like what parents be doing, but it was like I feel like if we had more people to explain or even address issues or address things like how come I shouldn't have sex before marriage. I don't know why that was a huge one, but that's even like people growing up and wanting to be married. That's like instilled in all of us is to be married. The ultimate objective is you want to be married. But like what about the people who really don't want to be married? What about the people who's like, yeah, um, that's not for me? What about those people? And those people will now be considered outcasts because it's like, hmm, you should want to be married. What? Why don't you want to be married? And I think about that in a sense of generational traumas. And it's like, if your parents was married, then you will feel like you're obligated to be married. And I don't mean that in like the negative way, but you'll feel like that's something that you should strive for because your parents had it. Or like I think about when I was in school and like I had friends who were like, "Oh, I'm going to school to be a doctor and a nurse, but I don't want to do that. I want to be a journalist or I want to be a musician," or they wanted to be something totally opposite of what their family wanted, but because their father was a doctor and their father's father was, all their lineages was doctors, it was just like, I can't do that because of this. And I was just looking like, how crazy is that? That you can't live the life that you want to live because you're living someone else's life. You're living someone's life who didn't, they didn't have the courage to tell their parents that they don't want to live like that. Um, and so now you're living it. And I really say I'm talking about generational trauma because there's courage that has to happen. Even though things have happened before you, um, you have to have the courage to be able to stand and say the buck stop here. I always wanted to put that. You have to have the courage to say the buck stop here. If you know like someone in your family is abusive, or you know someone in your family has um, they're a predator, I'll say that. It is very important for you to do something, say something. I know we don't want to like destroy our families or we don't want to like ruffle people's feathers, but um you have to think about the people that comes after you. Like say this is a hypothetical situation. Say you have an Uncle Pete, right? I don't even know why I just named him Pete, but say you have an Uncle Pete, right? And Uncle Pete touched you, and you're like, well, Uncle Pete touched me. You tell your grandma, you tell your mom, and they like, yeah, whatever. Uncle Pete didn't do that. Why would Uncle Pete do that? And then you start talking to your cousins, and you realize your older cousin, and you started realizing like Uncle Pete been doing this for a long time. I think it's important for you to say something, especially if you have younger siblings, if you have younger cousins. It's important because in my mind, I think like even when I think back to the person who took advantage of me, if somebody would have did something, there would have been a lot of people that could have been spared those experiences. I think people have experienced so much trauma in their life, from abandonment by their parents to rejection by their parents. Some people have babies, you know, out of wedlock, had babies at an early age, and I think like people have found unhealthy coping mechanisms, like unhealthy ways to cope. Like, oh, this is happening to me, and it's just like, yeah, but you'll be all right because it happened to me, and look at me, ain't nothing wrong with me. Like, you ever told somebody something and they was like, girl, bro, that ain't nothing because you know what happened to me, but look at me, ain't nothing wrong with me. And I just be looking like, somebody said that to me, and I was just looking like, yeah, yes and no for me. I don't want to be delusional when I think about my life. I want to be able to say I lived my best life. I want to be able to say that I truly love myself. And when I say I love myself, I didn't lie to myself. I didn't act like things didn't happen. I didn't sweep it under the rug and say, "Oh, you know what? I mean, they didn't mean to do it." Cuz no, they meant to do whatever they're doing, whatever they did. They didn't mean to do that. I had to learn to take accountability for my part and leave everyone else's alone. I said a couple of weeks ago, like, no one tells us, like, we be walking around, like, if you are oldest child, right? I feel like this is generational trauma because I'm an oldest child. But if you are the oldest sibling, right? There's a thing that happened to you. Like, you had younger siblings, you became the babysitter, you became the cook, you became everything, everything. Um, I was talking to my brothers the other day and I said, I think that's why I don't have kids, because I raised so many kids. Like, many kids. Like, my mom just took in, like, I would go to school and come back and it'd be kids. Like, where did these kids come from? Like, but they would just be in my house. So now, like, I'm calling them my brothers and sisters, and people's like, oh, is that your brother and sister? Like, there was so much responsibility placed upon me at a young age. I don't feel like I had a childhood, not like Michael Jackson, but I don't feel like I really had a childhood, but I did. I had roller skating, bowling. I had all of those things, but I don't really feel like I was able to take advantage of it because I was being the responsible adult and making sure I wasn't even an adult though, but I was making sure that my brothers were good, making sure we were good. My mom worked all the time, and church was like her and Jesus. To this very day, her and Jesus, they rock like they rock. Just so knock to my mom and Jesus. It's just like I had to grow up before I should have grew up. And I'm saying all of these things because if you are a parent and you have experienced any of the things that I've talked about on this podcast, it's important for you to make a safe space for your child. Maybe your child, or maybe you didn't, experience, maybe you experienced a molestation or being taken advantage of, and you didn't go within yourself. Maybe you was just like, oh, that was water under the bridge, and you just, you're fine. Everything is perfectly fine for you. And I'm not saying that it's not. I'm saying maybe you just one of those people that it just didn't bother. I'm gonna honestly say I couldn't hold that in. I'm honestly say I think that it is manifesting in you in a way that you just probably not haven't even thought about it. But trauma definitely has a way of revealing itself. When I was 18, my life, I feel like my life has been trying to tell me or trying to get me to rid myself of all of the traumas that I've been through instead of just holding it in. It's like, oh, I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm not even going to talk about it because if I don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. That's denial. It's denial. If I don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. If somebody starts talking about it, I don't have to like. It's denial. That it's a coping mechanism. I was pretty good at that. Pretty good. And then I got to the point where I was just like, oh, I mean, that happened when I was younger. It didn't have any effect. And then 3 years ago, I experienced a really bad breakup. And for the first time in my life, I didn't cry. And it confused the hell out of me as to why I didn't cry. And then I was like, you know what? I need to sit down and I need to go on a journey of healing and self discovery. And the moment I said that, I hopped in a shower and I just was like, yeah, everything's going to be, I'm going to go on this journey. And I had in my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm going to touch here and I'm going to touch there. I was just going to like general touch things. And then I got in the shower literally after I said I was going to go on a journey of healing and self discovery. And I started bawling, like crying so hard. And I didn't even understand why I was crying so hard. And then I heard a really small voice on the inside of me say, we feel safe. It is okay. And I don't know. I just lost it. Like I'm now balled up in the bottom of the bathtub. I'm laughing now, but I was so crying. I was so crying. And so I'm balled up in the bottom of the bathtub. And I just like, when I said I'm sorry, and I'm just like, I'm just talking to the small voice. And now that I went to therapy, I realized that was me. That was younger me, like thanking me for getting them to a place where they felt safe and that they didn't have to be so guarded and all of those things. And I just like, I felt, to say that I felt a release is like, doesn't even do it justice. It was like, I can't even put it into words, but if y'all can imagine what I'm saying, like it was like the greatest thing had ever happened. And then I just cried. And then um, I had another talk with my parents. See, that's like that opened the door. The 35-year-old talk opened the door for like all kinds of talks and all kinds of questions, and for them to be asked, answered by my parents. 3 years ago, I had another conversation with my father, and at this time, the conversation, he told me that he has stage 4 prostate cancer. And that was really traumatic. I keep saying traumatic because it was traumatic. Um, and I just thought to myself, like, it's so unfair, right? It's unfair that I didn't get to spend like all of my life with him, and then now it's like I'm getting cheated again. That was the exact words I used. Because I am not going to be able to spend time with you, um, in the latter parts of it. And so I was so consumed with grief, and you know who helped me through the grief? Or help me like understand it? It was my father, the guy who didn't understand grief, or didn't he helped me understand it. And so every day from that day, like, he was either coming to my house, I was going to his house, he was cooking, we were like hanging out, and it was like the most amazing things ever. It was the greatest 6 years. And my father passed away in 2001. Not 2001, in 2021. What? And I cried. I cried not because I lost my father, but I cried because I didn't get the opportunity to spend like the largest majority of my life with him, but the last 6 years that I got to spend with him felt like eternity to me. It felt like everything that I ever wanted in my life, like a hug, just for my father to hug me and tell me that he loved me like that. When he hugged me like all the time. It was just like, I literally felt like the little person in me was like, yes, finally. But I didn't know how much that meant to me. Um, and so I was, processing that. And at the same time, I was processing having COVID and almost dying. And then 2022, my mom had a series of strokes, and she almost died. And totally changes. I don't know if you are someone who has lost a loved one, but when you lose a parent, we all know like one day we're going to get older. One day we won't be here. But when you lose a parent, and then the remaining parent is in life is in jeopardy, it changes you. Um, Especially changed me because I am the oldest. I have 3 younger brothers, and I'm not going to say that guys aren't really in tune with their emotions, because they are. They're just not as emotional as me. Ha, that's how I'm going to say it. They're just not as emotional as me. Um, I have, since February of 2022, I've spent every moment with my mother, um, loving on her, just pulling from her, pulling wisdoms, like experiences, everything. And then February 2022, um, I found out that I had a tumor growing on the inside of me. Um, I don't know. Sorry, you guys. It's weird when you start actually addressing it and talking about it. I mean, I've lived through it, but like to actually talk about it out loud. I had a tumor that I was telling everybody, I was bloated. I've never been bloated before, ever. But I was telling everybody I was bloated, and then my stomach had grew really big, and then I fell down the stairs, like 2 stairs, and I go to the hospital, and it was crazy because I had just left the hospital with my mom. Like my mom had just got my mom had just got released from the hospital, and I'm her caretaker because I'm the oldest and I'm the only girl. So if you know, you know. And so I'm taking care of her, and then I fall down these 2 stairs, and I'm over there taking care of her, and I'm like, I'm at her house taking care of her. She's seeing me every day, so I'm gonna tell you how crazy this is. She's seeing me every day, and so I'm like, if I'm not feeling better by the next day, then I'm gonna go to the urgent care. The next day came, I was not feeling better. I go to the urgent care. Um, I go to the urgent care, and they say, how many stairs did you fall down? I said, I only fell down 2, just 2. I hit boom, boom. I tried to catch myself. This is a disclaimer. If you are ever going down, do not try to catch yourself. Just fall, because you're only going to make it worse. I had to say that because I was getting a little emotional. So I go to the urgent care. They're like, oh no, you have to go to the emergency room. Now I'm freaking out because again, I'm her personal care worker or whatever you want to call it. Like I'm making sure that she good, and I know that if she don't see me, she's going to start to worry, and then that's going to bring panic, and then it was just like, So I'm telling my younger brother, I don't know what it is about younger siblings, but sometimes they just don't listen. All you got to do is listen. So I'm telling my younger brother, like, hey, I am okay. This is in my mind. I thought I am okay. I'm just going over to the emergency room just to ensure that everything is okay. Do not tell our mother that I am going to the hospital. Y'all got that, right? Y'all picked up what I put down. Like, okay, my mother just had a series of strokes. She doesn't need to be right. I'm pretty sure you got that. And you're like, yeah, don't tell her. Why does my little brother tell my mom that I'm at the emergency room? She's freaking out. She's calling my phone. I can't answer the phone because they're in here. That they finally come back after I had a CAT scan. They finally come back and said, "Ma'am, you're hemorrhaging." And I'm looking at them like, "What?" I just fell down 2 stairs. They're like, "No, you're hemorrhaging, and you have a mass the size of a baseball." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So when can I go home?" And she's like, "Ma'am, we're not even done." And so then she's like, your cancer antigens. Now, this is something that I never even knew that it was a test that you can test for cancer. But let me tell y'all, she said your cancer antigens came back, and the normal results are zero point 0.7 to 37.9 or somewhere in that ballpark. And I was like, okay. And she said, well, yours came back 279.5. And I was just like, what does that mean? I mean, okay, what does that mean? She's like, well, you are officially going into cancer protocol. Literally, you ever heard like Charlie Brown, I think it was, and it go, wah, 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 wah. That lady said cancer. I didn't hear another word that she said after that. In my mind, I was like, oh my God, who's going to take care of my mother? Like, I gotta go home because I gotta make sure that my mother is okay. And they're telling me all the stuff there. I heard her say, you can't go home until we stop you from hemorrhaging. And I'm sitting over here just like, what? I only fell down 2 stairs. I'm not realizing the significance of it. And I'm talking to you probably like, well, how is this generational trauma? For decades, we have not gone to the doctor to take care of ourselves. It's important to go to the doctor. And I'm telling you the story as to why it's important. I thought I was bloated. Come to find out, I had a whole mass that was, at the time, cancerous. So I went into cancer protocol. I had to stay in the hospital for 2 days. And actually, I was supposed to stay longer than that, but I'm a great negotiator. While I was trying to negotiate, I don't know. I didn't realize the severity of it. When you're so used to, like, oh, I feel good. You probably right now your head been hurt for 3 days. You probably like, I feel good. I took some Tylenol. I'm gonna be good. You don't know. You probably got an aneurysm or something in there. You definitely need to go to the hospital. So I go home. I have to break the news to my family and tell them what's going on. And I didn't. I told my family, but I didn't tell my mom because again, she just had a series of strokes. So I'm telling them. I go to the cancer center at Freighter. Like that's when I knew. That's when I knew like it was like this is real because I it wasn't just like a little clinic. No, they have a whole hospital for cancer. They sent me to the whole hospital for cancer. I had to go get blood work. I had to go get so much stuff done. And I'm walking past people as they go into chemo. And every day I'm going there. And then they're like, so what are you going to do? Are you going to, take chemo? Like, what are you going to do? I'm just like, I'm just gonna go to Colorado, or I'm gonna get some of the strongest weed I can find. I do not condone drugs or alcohol, but I'm telling y'all what I was experiencing. I was like, oh no, I'm not putting radiation in my body. It's a no. I didn't care nothing about losing my hair because I didn't cut my hair off. It was a no. It was just me. I didn't want to I didn't want to endure that. And it was at that moment when I walked out of there after having to make that decision. And I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm just going to be so high. I'm going to smoke. I'm going to eat edibles. I'm going to do all of that. It was at that moment when I walked back down that hallway where those people were going in for chemotherapy that I thought about everybody I knew that had cancer. And I thought, like, those are the strongest people ever. If you or someone you know has dealt with cancer, I want you to listen to what I'm about to say. I know a lot of times we don't be wanting people to leave because we feel like we haven't had as much time as we wanted with them. But to have to make that decision to put radiation into your body is those people are so strong. And I'm not saying that I'm weak, that I didn't want to do it. I just knew that I didn't want that for me. When they tell you all the things that is going to happen to you as it is going, like as you are going through the process, it's a no for me. I had to go and have a level 1 trauma surgery. So not only did I have to tell my family about the whole cancer thing, I had to tell them about the surgery. I went back and they're like, the baseball size is now larger than that, and it's pushed all of my internal organs over to the left side. And y'all want to know the craziest thing? I wasn't scared at all. I wasn't scared. I cried about the cancer, and the crazy thing is not so much about me. I cried because I thought about all the people that I knew that made the decision to have chemotherapy. Oh, that decision. I knew that wasn't yeah, I'm gonna do it. I knew that wasn't like one of those decisions. Like I knew at that moment, like life became real for me. I've been living in this life for all these years, but it became real for me. So on March the 18th, 2022 at 6 a.m., I went in and had surgery. I was allergic to regular anesthesia or whatever it is, so I had to have a different type because I'm allergic to acetaminophen. Thanks, COVID. And so I was in there from 6 a.m. to like 3 or 4. I have a big scar in my stomach. And you're probably wondering about the cancer. Well, I'm going to tell you about it because it was definitely an experience. So I got released from the hospital. They said, hey, we can't tell you right away. It's going to take a couple of days to do biopsy on everything. So I'm literally like, if these are my last days, I need to give me some edibles. I need the strongest stuff. I'm real life. And my family is upset because I'm like, I don't even care. I've given y'all everything that I got. If this is about me right now, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out higher than a giraffe. So I had the surgery on March 18th. I had to wait 12 days, 12 of the longest days. And they said, oh, you don't have cancer. Y'all see how I just said that? Oh, you don't have cancer. It's just how they said it, as they were ripping the staples out of my stomach. And I just started crying, not because I didn't have cancer. I started crying because that was the most... I have been... I walked back and forth to I went to the cancer center. Like, you guys asked me, you showed me what it was going to do to me. I did. And you just going to tell me, oh, you don't have cancer. But it was just like that. It wasn't no, like, when they were telling me that I had cancer, it was a whole drawn out, showing me pamphlets and all these different things. But when they told me I didn't have, oh, you don't got it. So I just went through. I said all that to say, if you are hurting, if you are feeling something is not right, go to the hospital. I know you're probably like, oh, that's just another bill. The reality of it is you're going to owe somebody till the day you die and even after you die, because the funeral home, the mortuary people that got to get you from wherever you are and take you to the funeral home, you're going to owe people. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. If you are a parent, take your kids to the dentist, the doctor, get them physicals. And you probably like, why are you saying that? Because most people don't do that. People are afraid to go to the doctor. I get it. Do you know, ever since that experience, I definitely go regularly. I definitely go regularly, mainly because after all the experience I had, 2022 was definitely an experience. Following all of that stuff happening, I had polyps on my vocal cords. I had just had a major surgery. I told them I'm never having surgery ever again in my life. And y'all hear me saying this right now. I'm never having surgery ever again in my life. They were like, first it was small and then it like grew large and they were like, you have to have surgery. My ear, nose, and throat doctor said you have to have surgery. And I'm like, it's a no for me. Well, what are you going to do? What I know y'all know my answer. What I said. Yep, I'm just gonna smoke and be high. That's it. That infuriated my family, but I didn't even care because I was the one that just had a level 1 trauma surgery that still can't do regular things that I used to do. Like, I remember I could clean up my whole house in like an hour or two and it'd be immaculate. Like, I could mop, lift stuff up and move it around. Now, just looking at it and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. But I say I need a second opinion. And they're like, no, you don't need a second opinion because and I was like, no, it's a no, because I had to use my voice. I have to use my voice. I have to speak to you guys. I have to sing. I have to do all these different things that I wasn't doing nothing with. And this is for you. Maybe you're watching this and maybe you have giftings or talents and you're just sitting there. You have a burning to say, I need to make an album, or I have make a book, or I need to perform more concerts, whatever it is. You're a makeup artist. You need to make up people's face. You're a truck driver, whatever it is. You have something that you are not doing. Let this be a lesson for you. So I have polyp over my vocal cords. My voice is like shot, like shot. I didn't have a voice. I just sounded like I didn't have a voice. So I go and get a second opinion, and they're like, we see the polyp on your vocal cords. And I was like, okay, cool. And they were like, let's look at it today. And so from that was like July to like September, I was back and forth to the ear, nose, and throat. And then I was still at the specialized. I went to another specialist, from cancer specialist to ear, nose, and throat specialist. And so September, they was like, we're gonna do another thing. They put the thing up my nose, y'all. They did another thing and put it up my nose, and it was like, we don't see the polyp. I was like, y'all got to be fucking kidding me, because I saw it. It was there, and I'm looking up at the screen. I got brand new vocal cords. I promised the universe, God, Buddha, Allah, whoever it is that you serve, I promised them that I said I would talk every day for the rest of my life, just because you did that for me. And so I'm talking right now because I want you to know, you don't have to be, you don't have to live in anyone else's shadows. If you are molested, if you are taken advantage of, you are greater than that. If you struggle with drugs or you struggle with alcohol, you are greater than that. If you don't have a great relationship with your parents, but you are a parent, I want to encourage you to have the conversation. Have the conversation because whether you believe it or not, as a parent, there's going to come a day when your child is an adult and they'll have that conversation with you. Have the conversation. If you are a parent, I'm going to say this mainly because it's Pride Month. If you are a parent, and I know so many people have so many opinions about children, and if they are gay, not gay, can identify, have the brain capacity to do that, I want to encourage you to talk to your child, talk to your children, talk to your young adult, talk to your adult children, talk to them. I know a lot of people have this thing when it comes to homosexuality, and I feel like it came from the church. But hey, that's just me. That's my opinion. Where people are afraid of it because they don't know. If you have a child that identifies as being gay, don't kick them out. Don't kick them out.
What? You say Freddy Hen?
I don't know where Freddie is. Okay. Sorry, y'all. I'm the greatest auntie in the world. Okay, can you get out, please? Close the door. Thank you. Ask your daddy.
Daddy, no hug.
And can you ask your daddy? And close the door, please. Thank you.
What?
Close the door.
Daddy, no.
Close the door. Sorry, y'all. See, I was in a stride. I was doing good. That's because I put him in another room. Cameron, can you go out, please?
No.
Oh, my God.
No, get out. Get out. No.
Greatest auntie in the world.
Stop it.
And I don't even mind that they're in here because I don't want them to think that I don't. I want them to feel like they have my undivided attention, and they have. She sees herself on camera. Can you get out of my podcast? Okay. Hold on, guys. I'll be right. I'll be right back. She want a hug so I can pick her up so she can see. One moment. I'll be right back. I'm still here. I'm just gonna put them on the other side of the door. Okay, I'm back. Oh, I gotta fix my camera now. Okay. Um, if you're a parent and you have a child that identifies as LGBTQIA, um, don't kick them out. Don't tell them that they're going to hell, because religious parents like to do that. Um, talk to them. Understand where they are. Love on them. I know you're probably like, I didn't raise them to be that way. You didn't raise, we don't be raised to be a lot of things, but we still are them. I feel like there are too many young people out that are homeless. There are too many young people that have been given up on because of how they identify. And that's generational trauma. I told someone, they were like, I don't think that kids should be able to identify at a young age. And I said, I would rather people be able to identify as a young age and their parents could talk to them about it, and their siblings and everyone in their family can talk to them about it, and they can understand, and they can start getting knowledge and not be ignorant about it. And then we wouldn't have as many adults out here that are struggling. And I'm saying adults that are struggling, whether they are in the closet or they gay for pay, they gay for all these other different things. And you have those who are on the down low, and then they are being kicked out the closet, and then they respond violently. Like, if we have more people taking the time to understand rather than to push hate or push the hate agenda, things will be different. Things will be different. And I'm not saying, just act like what I'm telling you is that if you are a parent, especially if you are a female, a woman, and you carried a baby for as long as you carried it, and you felt it on the inside, you did everything you could do to protect that child. I want you to have that same thought process about the child while he, she, them, or they are here and alive. And I'm saying this as I'm getting ready to wrap it up. I'm saying this because for too long, we have allowed other people to dictate how we raise our family members, our children, how we operate our households. For too long, we have done that, especially in the Black community. For too long, we have done that. It is time for us to build those communities. It is time for us to build stronger families. It is time for us to stand up and live. Let go of the coping mechanisms. Stop denying. Uncle Pete is a predator. Auntie Sue, because we don't be talking about the women that be preying on kids too. That they are predators. Do something about it. Get them some help. There's no way that no one should be taken advantage of. But there is no way that more than one person in a family should be taken advantage of by the same person. It is time for us to stand up and do something about it. I don't know if y'all been paying attention, but these generations, like the generations underneath me, like this most recent generation, they ain't going for that. It's a no. My generation, we was okay. Hey, it happens to the best of us, is what a lot of people would say. Not me. I don't want that to happen to anybody. And I feel like anybody that it has happened to, if you have been taken advantage of, or you have been abused in any way, shape, form, or fashion, mentally, physically, emotionally, it is important for you to seek help. Am I talking about therapy? Yes. Go to therapy. I am talking about therapy. I feel like if everyone take the time to go to therapy, even if you have a deity that you worship, I would encourage you to go to therapy too. And I say that not to say that your deity isn't all powerful, all knowing, but there has to be a balance. there's so much hatred and anger and bitterness in the world right now. Like, we're currently surviving a global fucking pandemic, but there are people unaliving people every day. They unaliving them for not giving them their number. Parents are unaliving their kids just because they're tired of them. Like, then even if we're not even dealing with like things like that, we have to be concerned or watchful when we go to the grocery store, to church, to schools. We have to be mindful of how we treat people that are working at fast food restaurants or Walmart. Like, we have to be mindful because now everybody has a gun. Everybody have unresolved issues, and the only way that people are finding to as a solution is violence. There are more solutions than violence. There's so many things unresolved. So many families like minimize the hurt and the trauma that has been experienced in your family. It's time. If you are an adult and you have kids, it is time. I said, reach out to your parents. If your parents is no longer living, resolve that. Because whether you believe it or not, as a parent, you indirectly pass things on to your kids. Hi, beautiful butterfly. Hi, Chase. Hi, Sunlight. I'm sorry, guys. I was just talking. You indirectly pass things on to your kids. You should say the buck stop here. All the things that you wanted, you wished, you hoped for, be those things for your kids. Don't just, my mother didn't do. Be better. Be better than them. When I was growing up, they used to say that, the kids can't be better than the parents. They can. They can be greater versions of you. When I look at my mom, and I just look at all the things that she's been through and her current health situation, I am so grateful every day that I decided to go on a journey of healing and self-discovery. I'm so grateful that I don't hold the things that she didn't do or the things that I felt like she didn't do to her, and I can just spend time with her. Spend time with her, be at the Goodwills for hours. I laughed because we went to the Goodwill the other day, and I was watching like people like when you go to the Goodwill, they have like bins of like clothes and books and shoes, and so I'm watching these people like standing around the bins for the books, and I'm just like, me and my mom was like, we were fascinated, like, why are they just standing there? They could just go in the bins, and we and her talking back and forth, and then like they bring the last bin, and then these people make a mad dash for the bins. Now me and her are laughing, we laughing so hard. And then I was like, let me ask them, what's going on, because I didn't know. Like, I was like, wait, are we supposed to stand on the side? I didn't know what was going on, y'all. When I was growing up and we went to the thrift stores, you could just go on a rack and do whatever. No, these was big bins. So come to find out, the people were scanning the books that was in the bin because they have an Amazon store or eBay store, and they were scanning the books in a thing. And I was like, oh my God, that is so genius. That is so genius to go to the Goodwill. I can't tell y'all, well, I can tell y'all the amount of times that I went to the Goodwill and found rare or collector vinyl. I went and I found this Barbra Streisand. It's like a collector's pink. At first I thought it was a book, but it's actually two CDs and it's a booklet, and it was on sale for $1. I'm watching these people. Books was on sale for $1. It's people that had whole carts of books, like whole carts. The lady was scanning. She was like, "Yeah, you just scan the barcode and it'll tell you how much it's selling for on Amazon." So y'all know what I'm about to do, right? But anyways, me and my mom we're just standing there, and she's like, "Oh my God, like, I would have never thought to do something like that." And then you got the guys that sell shoes, or they resell clothes or shoes or whatever. They're in there finding throwback starter pullovers and stuff like that. I never even thought about that until that day we were standing there, and I told my mom, like, oh, I'm about to just watch what I do. And she was like, you don't even like to dig through the stuff when I'm shopping. I was like, oh, I'll buy some gloves. I'm going to do this. My mom inspired me to think outside of the box. My mom has inspired me so much in this last year. It's just been like, I don't know. I try to explain it to my brothers, but I don't think they're like, I'm not saying that guys aren't emotionally available, because they are. They just have a different way of showing their emotion. That why was I trying so hard to? They just have a different guys just have a different way of showing their emotions. And so like my mom's like my truck was down and she was like, is your truck back up yet? Because I just need to get out and go to the Goodwill. And I know my brother's like, yeah, she gonna be in there all day. We not taking her. And I was like, I'll take her. I'll be in there. I'm not going in this store. I'll be in there. I done found Charlie Pride. I done found Tina Turner. I done found all kinds. When I tell y'all like real life, I got a We Are the World album. When I tell y'all I be fine, I got a Monkeys album. I be finding some rare things. We had went to the Goodwill this one time. Now I'm talking about the Goodwill. Anyways, we had went to the Goodwill this one time and I saw this Monkeys album. And so I love music and I was like, oh, I need to get this album. And so some other people had saw me looking at the album and it was like her husband was like, oh, when she puts it down we're just we're gonna get it. And I was like, I don't know if I want to get this Monkeys album because I don't even know if it's really valuable. And then you could see like their face was like just lit up because it was like, yeah. And I was like, I'll buy it. I got it home and Googled it. I still got it to this very day. Collector's items. I just think about like my mom. I used to say, oh, I'm never going to do that for people. I watch my mom, like things just happen and my mom never fought back. I only seen my mom fight one time. And that was because we were sitting on a bus stop. My mom had just went and bought us McDonald's. She was happy. We had all did good or whatever. And she's like, we going to go to McDonald's today. And we were standing on a bus stop. And some guy walked up and was, he was cool. And then he was like, do you have money? She said she don't got no money. And he snatched our McDonald's. My mother handled that guy in a way that I knew. I'm gonna just say I bet you he won't take from nobody else. My mother handled him, and it wasn't about the McDonald's. It was more so she said, y'all were sitting here with me. He had no respect, and I was just like, whoa, she got them hands. She got them hands. But other than that, I've never seen my mom like, people, like people gossip or say things. I never seen my mom was like, that's not me. I never seen my mom do that. And I started to think back to my grandmother. I never seen her do that either. And then that's when I started to realize that I have those strengths in me. I've never done that either, but with the exception of, the breakup that I experienced. I mean, it was time. That's what I need. I needed that to happen so that I could be the person who I am today. Cause yeah, at the current stage I'm at in my life, I don't tolerate that. Anything that I experience, I don't hold it in. I'm not carrying it over to the next day. If I feel like you wronged me in any way, I'm gonna talk to you and I'm gonna tell you about it. If I feel like you're disrespectful, I'm gonna talk to you. I'm gonna tell you about it. I'm not going to like hold it off. That's when I feel like how things become generational. They be like, oh, it's a generational curse. I feel like it becomes generational because no one stands up and say, hey, it's not gonna happen anymore. This happened. No one underneath you should have to experience the same things that you felt. When I think about my nieces and nephews, people's like, why do you take your nieces and nephews with you to business meetings? I say, because I have my own business and I want them to know that they can have their own business too. Whether it's lip gloss, makeup, whatever it is they want to do, they can do it. My niece said she wanted to start making music. I have some music I'm gonna release later in the year, and I let her be the producer on it. Make sure that she all taken care of. She can get her royalties and everything. You gotta set your kids up for success. If you are a parent and you just now finding out about generational wealth or credit cards or credits or anything like that, share that information with your kids. Because you know what's going to happen if you don't. They going to get older and be like, why my parents didn't tell me about. So share that information. Don't push marriage on your child. If you was somebody that grew up and it was like marriage, 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 don't push marriage on your child. Push living on your child. Push understanding who they are. Push loving themselves upon them. Love them. Again, if you have a child that is a member of the Alphabet Mafia, that's the LGBTQI plus A, love on them. I know your religion teaches you that God hates them and all of those different things, but the reality of it is God is love, and that's whichever deity you serve. God is love. It's important for you to understand rather than to push away or hate, because we are all surviving a global fucking pandemic. People might not talk about it as much as they once were, but we're still surviving it. There's still other strands of it. There's still, things out in the world that we need to be mindful of. There's still people that have unresolved issues that decide to, you guys made me mad 2 weeks ago, so I'm going to come and do things. We've seen that with the latest grocery store or school shooting. Like, we have to take care of each other. We have to take care of each other. Let go of the coping mechanisms of denial and minimalization, and acknowledge. Accept it, acknowledge, and move on. Be better. Live. I said to myself, I'm going on a journey of healing and self-discovery, because for the rest of my life, I want to be light, love, and positivity. I want to love you so till you wake up and just be like, who in the hell is this person? I have never met her, but I feel love. Like, that's what I want. Like, that's what I strive to do. And then I realize that in being light, love, and positivity, it takes a lot. It's not, you don't just wake up and be light, love, and positivity. It takes a lot. You have to have discipline. You have to actually not just talk the talk, but you have to also walk the walk. When I started meditating and I started like not watching different things that like puts like, when I was going to therapy, they said you need 17 positive things to counteract one negative thing. I want you to think right now how many negative things you saw today. 17 positive things to counteract one negative thing. And if you scroll on social media all day, your day is filled with, there's some positives, especially with all of these people graduating. Congratulations to anyone that has graduated. Congratulations to anyone that is passing to the next grade. Congratulations to the people that's getting married, that are engaged. I don't have anything against marriage. I'm just saying a lot of people, like, that's what they strive for. And if they don't get it, like, you ever had your friends, you and your friends like, yeah, girl, by the time I'm 25, I'm gonna have a house, a car, kids, all of those things. And then they're 32 now, and it's like, what happened? And then they're in a relationship. Like, I don't know. I just be feeling like people be pushing their fears or pushing things on other people. And I'm pushing on you today. Therapy, light, love, and positivity. That's what I'm talking to you about. I do understand that everyone deals with trauma differently. I do understand that. And that's why I want to encourage you to go to therapy. I talk to my brothers, and I talk to them because, we all grew up in the same household, and they experience different things in life because they're black males. And I was like, if y'all want to, I'll go to therapy with you. I feel like I'm a therapy aficionado. Not really. But I will go to therapy with you. And a lot of times you tell people to go to therapy and it's like, I ain't about to sit on nobody's couch. And it's like, the reality of it is you're going to either continue to walk around with those things and have it affect every other thing that you do in life, or you're going to let it go. The greatest thing I found on this journey of healing and self discovery is that I found the ability to put down things that are not mine. The way my parents raised me, or me feeling abandoned by my parents when I grow up, that wasn't the reality. That was my reality. That was something that I created, when in actuality my mother made sure that I had a food, clothing, shelter. I literally had everything I could have ever possibly wanted, plus more. I just didn't have the things that I like the way that I wanted it. Every year I got a birthday card. I got gifts from my father. He just was never there. I didn't get to hug him. I didn't get to go out and get ice cream or anything. But the last 6 years, before he passed in 2021, I was able to hug him. He was able to cook for me. All of those things. Share stories. Like, it was just amazing. It was the most amazing experience. And now I get to hang out with my mother literally every day and cook for her. And it's just an amazing experience. If you have parents, talk to them. Understand where they were when you were born. Because maybe the situation wasn't good. I totally understood my parents' situation. Totally. Maybe your parents' situation wasn't good. Maybe they experienced trauma. And that's how we got to understand. And I'm not saying excuse your parents for the decisions that they made. What I'm saying is we got to heal and let things go. Maybe you holding on to bitterness because your mother or your father couldn't buy you name brand shoes all the time. Maybe they were on crack, or maybe your father never even was there, but he has a whole nother family up the street. Like, there's so many different things that we need to heal from, not just as individuals, but also as a community. There's so many different things that we need to heal from. And the only way that we can be better is if we heal and we make room for new. That was my thing when I got ready to turn 40. I was like, I'm not bringing any of this over up into 40. I'm not. I sat down. When I tell y'all, I cried. I didn't eat for a couple of days. I started working out. I started juicing. Became real disciplined. And I realized the more I cleansed, the more I had room for doing the things that I wanted to do. The more I cleansed, the less my fear got. You know, when you have like fear of rejection, you have fear of disappointment, like these are fears, right? I even had a fear of success. I knew the entire time of my life, I got vision boards and everything. Like, yeah, I'm going to be successful, but I feared being successful. The more I cleaned out, the more room I have. So the first 6 months of 2023 has been the greatest. Oh, it has been some of the greatest. It has been some challenges, but the challenges have pushed me to know what's on the inside of me. I have been able to say, you know what? The buck stops here. I'm not going to push this onto my nieces and nephews. I'm not going to push this onto my siblings. I'm not going to push this onto other people that I know. Any educational component or anything that I get, I'm trying to share. I go to all of these different business events, accelerators, any grant opportunities. I'm trying to share with everybody. Why? Because we all can eat. We all can eat. We all can learn. We all can grow. I am so happy to say that I am a music administrator, and I'm even happier to say this. I am venturing into artist management. There was a little, I'm not going to be an artist manager too, because that was part of the teaching, but I've let all of that go. All of my reservations are gone. All of my fears are gone. I'm so far out of my comfort zone. I can't even, I'm just out here living life. In the last 3 years, I've almost died. One time. Anyways, twice. One from COVID, one from the story I just told y'all about. You think I'm about to be sitting around here twiddling my fingers, waiting for something to fall from the sky? No, everything I ever wanted to do, I've done. I've made history 2 times in 1 year. I literally when I crossed over into 2023, I've been like legacy have been weighing heavy on me. And so like my legacy will be light, love, and positivity. And I'm gonna make sure that music artists understand the business of music, and not just music artists, but parents also of music artists. And I'm gonna make sure that anytime anyone has an experience in life that they feel like they have a comfortable space to come and have a nurturing conversation. Y'all see how I did that? Wrapping it up. Anywho, thank you guys for being here and having this conversation with me. Hopefully something I said triggered you. And I would say not in a bad way. I don't mean to trigger you. I don't. But I do want you to know that you survived a global fucking pandemic, and it is time for you to live. You've been surviving. You survived your family. You survived the relationship. You survived your job. You've been surviving. It is time for you to live. Live in abundance, live in wealth. And I don't just mean finances when I say wealth. I mean health. Like, health is important. I didn't realize how much health was important because before I had the surgery, I was able to do a lot. And then they was like, oh, after 6 to 8 weeks, you should be fine. And then I had to join a community of people who had the kind of surgery that I had to understand. A community, let me say it right, I had to join a community of African American women who had the surgery that I had to understand that my body isn't going to bounce back like they say it was. Because I feel like the health care system definitely need to have, I don't want to say separate things, but we need to have separate things, because you're telling me that at this time I'm going to be great, but every one of the African American women that I spoke to was like, no, honey, it's going to take a minute. So imagine how disappointed I was when I was like, yeah, I'm about to get back into working out. And then I worked out and I felt like I was dying, and it was just like, oh my God, something is wrong with me. I'm broken. And they're like, you're not broken. You just need to heal. You just need to relax, pick up a good book and heal. And I was just like, but I am healing. And it was like, no, baby, internally, you have to heal. You have to give your body time. And I was just like, oh, what do I do? Because I'm so used to doing things. What do I do? And I've been taking the time that I have to build my business, to restructure my YouTube, restructure my Twitch. I'm getting more content. I'm super excited. Tomorrow will be the first, I'm releasing the first episode of season 2 for my music business podcast. I'm going to restructure this whole thing because the way it's looking right now, I love it. I enjoy it, but I want to have a different location. I'm upgrading everything because I want the legacy of iShell. That is my name. If you didn't know, iShell is my name. But I want my legacy to be light, love, and positivity. I want everybody that I come in contact with to feel loved, to feel important, to feel as though that I care and I truly do listen to you, because people aren't listening. When was the last time you had a hug? I know you probably was like, that's something small. Well, when was the last time you actually had a hug? Not just like a, oh, hey, but I mean like a hug where somebody embraced you. I hadn't been outside in so long. I received so many hugs in these first 6 months of 2023. I needed every one of those. Every one of those hugs. My nieces and nephews hugs me all the time. Did y'all see how they just ran it? They hug me all the time. And before, like people will be like, oh, that's enough hugs. You can hug me as much as you want to hug me. My niece figured out, I'm going to tell you, this is why I say I believe young adults, youth or whatever, I feel like they should be able to use their imagination, explore their imagination. My young niece figured out that when she tells me that she wants a hug, like I will pick her up and I will hold her. So whenever I know when she does it always when she gets sleepy, but when she feels like she just want a hug, she just say, Titi, I want a hug. And I hug her and we sit in a chair and we watch a movie. Next thing you know, we sleep, or I put her on my lap and then she's talking to me. She's like playing with my hair, and it's just like, that is so crazy. Have you ever took the time to just spend time with your nieces and nephews? If you're an auntie or uncle, you should do that. because, you know, this is coming from the greatest auntie ever. I am. That is me. I mean, you could feel like you're the greatest auntie or uncle. That's your opinion. But I'm the greatest. Um, no, but I love them. Like, I have a bunch of nieces and nephews. I have younger brothers. So I have a bunch of nieces and nephews. That's so bad to say. I don't have a lot. Oh, I do have a lot. And I love all of them, and they all love me, and they all love being around me. And I think that is the coolest thing. I'm like the coolest auntie ever, especially because I got all of this stuff. Like, we were doing karaoke yesterday, and they were just singing, and they love it. And I don't force anything on them. If you're a parent, don't force anything on your child. They say they want to tap dance today and play piano tomorrow. The internet is an amazing thing. You can YouTube everything. If they got tablets or iPads, or everybody got a tablet, or iPad, or a phone, get them a GarageBand or get them a recording app, and they can make their music on, you know, they can sing on there. I mean, in so many different ways. Oh, this is what I'm going to say, and then I'm going to wrap it up for real. So I was on TikTok, right? And the guy was saying, how we live in a digital age, and if you're a parent and you're not showing your child, or you're not sharing with your family members how to make money in a digital age, you are not setting your child up for success. And so it was a white guy talking, and there was like black people in the audience, and the black guy was like, he was so upset. He's like, "What do you mean we're not setting our kids up for success?" And he's like, "No, what I'm saying is, if you're in an age where there is numerous ways to make money digitally, and you're telling your child, like, hey, you should do this and you should make money, and it's easy to do that, and your child is going to look at you and say, if it's that easy, why don't you do it?" And then all you heard was a silence go over the crowd, and the white guy was like, "Yeah, that's what I meant." We need to stop telling our children that things are easy and actually show them. I saw my mother being a hard worker. I saw my mother do a lot of things. I saw my mother being a strong black woman. I saw her excel. I saw her just be a lot of things. I've never seen my mother cry, though. I've never seen her cry. I'm sure she does cry, but I've never seen it. I can't think of a woman that I've seen cry. And you're probably like, what does that have to do with anything? I've never seen a woman like cry. I cry all the time, but you see it on TV, but like no one in my inner circle I've never seen cry. And so then I had formulated this thing in my mind, was like, nope, I'm not going to ever let anybody see me cry. And I was, getting ready to cross over into 40. I was like, fuck that. I want you to see that I'm crying. I'm hurt. I am sad. I am not okay. I know that it's okay not to be okay, but I know that it's not okay to stay there. I want my nieces and nephews to see me cry. I want them to know that I'm not like, oh, look at me, I'm hurting, but I want them to see that. We already grew up in a world where you don't, like, everybody is tough. Everybody we gotta be tough. I don't want anybody to take advantage of me. If you take advantage of me, that's your loss. If you do any of those things, that is your loss, because you're going to lose out on one of the greatest human beings ever. Your loss. But I don't care. It's like people's like, oh, I would never tell. I want to say it out loud. Again, like I said in my disclaimer, so many people are walking around here in this earth feeling like they are alone, feeling like I'm the only person that feels depressed, suicidal. I'm the only person that ever had these things happen to me. You're not. Your mother, your auntie, cousin, uncle, granddad, everybody, human beings, we all have had experiences in life. Some people just don't choose to talk about them because some of them act like they don't exist, and some of them are just like, oh, it's not a big deal, when it really is. You ever notice when someone unalives themselves, the first thing people say is, I didn't even know there was anything. They were always smiling. They were always, every time. Like every time. Every time. If you don't believe me, just think about it. Think about people in your family. Think about celebrities. Every time. It's always, they were smiling. They looked like everything was okay. Every time. That's when people started saying, check on your strong friends. I say check on people, period. Especially with this global fucking pandemic, because so many people haven't used to have an outlet of school, or used to have an outlet of work, or used to have an outlet of just being able to go over to a family member's house, and they didn't have that. It's important that we resolve the generational traumas, especially because the next generations shouldn't have to deal with the things that we deal with. That's just how I feel. I don't believe in generational curses because I feel like people can stand up and say, "Hey, the buck stopped here. It's not gonna go on anymore. Call the police, call the authorities, somebody, do something." People are out here suffering because no one done anything. No one is trying to do anything. We have to do something. We have to do better. If you are a parent, hug your child. Hug your child, kiss your child, tell them how beautiful, how handsome. Support them. Support them. Support them. And I say all that because you won't, but somebody who preys on young kids or teenagers, they will. And you probably shouldn't say that on the platforms, but I'm gonna say it again because somebody needs to say it. If you don't, somebody else will. And we all know that the person who will, they shouldn't even be in a space. Love your child. If your parents have never hugged you, hug your kids. Change it. Switch it up. That's all I got, y'all. This has been a Nurturing Conversations podcast. Today's topic was generational curses, or not curses, generational traumas. Hopefully I said something that inspires you or encourages you to be great. Hopefully I said something. If at any time you ever want to talk, my information is in the description, or all of my socials are on in my about section. Feel free to reach out. Anything you say is, it's confidential. Again, I'm not a mental health professional, but I'm not somebody to be like, girl, let me. No. No, I don't do that. But I do make sure people have a safe space. That's what I envision the Nurturing Conversation podcast. Hi, Angel. That's what I envision a Nurturing Conversation podcast to be, a safe space for us to come and have a conversation about it. How many times have you been in your family and you go to family events? It's like, I can't believe that this is happening. Maybe it's time for somebody to do something. That's all I got. I just want us to be better, especially given that we're surviving a global fucking pandemic that still exists today, but people don't really talk about it. Did y'all notice that? I know I'm not the only person that noticed that. Like, it was, you got to get the shot, don't get the shot. And people going back and forth with each other because they didn't get the shot, they got the shot. And it was like, oh, y'all didn't really need to have the shot. We was just afraid of what could happen if y'all didn't get the shot. And then it's like silence. The mandates for shots is gone. Like, everything is just like silence. Have y'all noticed that? It still exists. It's still out there. Just not talked about as much. That's all I got. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe. If you're on Twitch, go ahead and hit the follow button. Subscribe. My goal for June is to get more subscribers, more followers. I have an objective. I'll tell y'all more about that like in the weeks and not during this time, but I have something I really want to do. I'm going to do it, but I'll be sharing that with y'all as the time comes. That's all I got. Remember that it is important for you to use your words. That is the only way that anyone will ever know what you are feeling or what you are thinking. I will never let a live video, vlog, podcast, Call of Duty, Firelight, whatever I play or do, go out without me telling you to love. You gotta hug yourself sometimes. Love yourself. This includes your faults, your fears, and failures. And I say that because a lot of times when we have the money, the car, the guy, the girl, the house, the job, when we like up here in life, we love on ourselves. Yeah, I did a good job. I did a good job. We love on ourselves. But then when we make mistakes or we don't, we be, we disappoint ourselves or we disappoint other people. We be so hard on ourselves. That's when you should give yourself the most love and the most grace, because we are humans and we are not perfect. No one ever is perfect, will be perfect. We are all learning. We are striving to be better every day. Know yourself, know what is you, know what is like what someone is trying to push on you. Trust yourself. Now, this is another one that I like to break down, because sometimes you ever have the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, or you get goosebumps, or you have a feeling in the pit of your stomach, or you hear a loud or a small voice, or some people call it their first mind. You ever have those experiences? I want you to trust that. I want you to trust it, because it's not going to lead you wrong. It's going to actually help you. It's going to protect you. It's going to make sure that you make the right decision. You ever was like, dang, I should have followed my first mind? Yeah, trust that. And most importantly, just be yourself. Why? Because you need you. I need you. This great big old world needs you to be exactly who you were created to be, not who we want you to be, so that you can feel loved. Because anybody that cannot love, respect, or appreciate you for being authentically you does not deserve to be in your space. Again, you are currently surviving a global fucking pandemic that took out millions of people, and you are still alive and well, or you are alive and here can change your circumstances. You should set boundaries and stand 10 toes down on those boundaries. If you haven't been paying attention to the news, you probably should, because that people didn't even know that there was a train derailment in Ohio, and it is causing all kinds of. Do you know that people in Florida is? Listen, you should pay attention to the news, not just in your local area, but news around the world, because there is a lot of things happening. I want to make sure that you and your family are safe, so make sure that you get some toiletries, non-perishable food items, water, disinfectants, and some cash money, and some coins to the side, so that in the event that anything happens, you and your family are good. Now, if you are an adult, listen to me. Listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. Given that we are in a global fucking pandemic, you would think that people will be really mindful when it comes to engaging in adult activities, but clearly they are not, because the STD rates are rising. Actually, they're at an all-time high, higher than when we weren't in a global pandemic. And I'm not laughing at that. It's just like, are we serious? Anyways, make sure you wrap it up, because whether you believe it or not, you take home whatever you have to your household, and it affects your household. So be mindful. If you're cheating, stop. Don't even cheat. If you're thinking about it, just leave the situation that you are in, because no one deserves that. No one. I don't care what's going on. No one deserves to be cheated on. If you're unhappy with your job, quit. How did you just tell somebody to quit that job? Because you already know you've been wanting to do a trucking business, whatever business it is. You already know. When I'm talking to you right now, you sitting there laughing because you like, yeah, I know I've been wanting to do that. I keep saying I'm going to do it. If you are anybody that has a computer or anything, you definitely should tap into Chat GPT. And I'm saying this as somebody who just realized the power of it. I went to a seminar and they showed me how to do some things that I was just like, oh my God, I'm sitting over here taking like hours to do. And they was like, you put this prompt in, Google, YouTube, best that's going to help you if you're a YouTuber. You do Twitch, Chat GPT, it'll help you. And she just encouraging AI, I sure am. But anyways, that's all I got. I love y'all. Thank y'all for the love and the support that y'all, was here for 2 hours. I appreciate that. That's all I got. Every Sunday night at 7, I'm here doing the Nurturing Conversations podcast. If you have a topic that you would like to talk about, if you have any reflections, anything you want to tell me that I could do better, hey, send it to me. I'm here to get better. This is what I'm here for. That's all I got. Until next time, I love you. Peace.